does anybody know what happened to the car? And come to find out, as the pool starts clearing up, we start seeing the outline of a vehicle in the water. That vehicle had been
so the pool was so dirty you couldn't even see the fact that there was a vehicle in there.
Driven into the pool.
And left there.
Abandoned, walked away.
Wow. Welcome to The Aquatic Perspective by Sunbelt Pools, a podcast where we share insights and lessons learned from working in the commercial aquatic industry. From design and construction to operations and service, we're here to talk about what it really takes to build and maintain great aquatic facilities. I'm Phil Collins.
Robert Morgan.
And in this episode, we discuss why commercial pools become difficult to maintain over time and what's often overlooked early in the process. You know, this time of year, Robert, we're here in early spring. It's about to be April. And this is that time of year where not only we're finishing up projects that we've been working on this last year that need to be open by Memorial Day, but there's a lot of facilities that are de-winterizing, if you will, or basically turning things on for the first time in 6-7 months. So what are the things that we see this time of year that shouldn't be surprises, but do seem to surprise people?
You know, in our area, we're in the South, and a lot of the facilities keep water in the pools year round, but they're not actually either circulating or they're not running all their features. And so a lot of the time they're turning stuff on and finding out that there's problems. They're starting to pay attention to their water bill if they are filling the pools back up, and realizing that something is very, very different than what it was last year. And it's concerning. It creates emergencies. And, you know, a lot of it, I think that we have come to realize that a lot of this stuff is preventable, with proper programs in place. However, some of it is, inherent to, unfortunately, some of this is inherent to the design of the facility and the reality of an aquatics complex.
Yeah, what makes it so difficult, or what are the problems that could be prevented when you shut things down for so long? Probably didn't phrase that exactly right, but you have a planned shutdown. You know you're going to be done, say, Labor Day, right?
Yeah.
Kids are going back to school. All right, guys, we've got 6 months. What are some of the things that could be done and aren't being done that we see that could make that startup process in early spring, streamlined a little bit better?
You know, a lot of that comes down to just a maintenance program during the off season. If you think about it, pumps being off, the worst thing for a lot of the electronic equipment is for it to be off.
Yeah.
And so pumps not operating for multiple months on end and nobody really thinking about it, can create problems when they go back to turn them on. Unfortunately, if it's not something that's being thought about, whether it be motors that are being turned or even started up electronically, just to make sure that the motors are good. We've come across lots of facilities where water was left in the system, yet it was turned off. And, it doesn't matter what coating is on a pump. If it's sitting stagnant water, that's been chemically treated for months on end, there's going to be degradation in that volute and impeller, to the point that they may even seize together.
And depending if you have like a run-out slide or something like that, and that doghouse has just been sitting stagnant for 6 months. I mean, you go to turn that thing back on. I mean, the amount of pollen and dust and things like that. I mean, a big recommendation would be to flush your systems before you clean the pool. So like when you go to start, you go to start this thing back up, you've had your lifeguards out there cleaning. It's like, all right, cool, let's fire up the slide.
Yeah.
You turn that bad boy on and now your pool's a big murky mess.
Yeah. We, and this was years ago, we had a facility that, this was a city park, and they just perpetually every year turned the system off and walked away, and would come back knowing the next year that there were going to be problems. The water was going to be gross. It was going to be black water. This in particular, they worked on this pool for a week. and nothing came of it. And finally called us in, said, "Hey, we've got to get this. We're getting down to due date. Nothing's changing. We've got to get this fixed."
Yeah.
And with the parks not operating the aquatic facilities, the aquatics guys were all focused on other things. Well, nobody had informed the aquatics team, "Hey, during this off season, this fence got run over," and nobody thought of it. Fixed the fence. All things continued until aquatic season opens up, and they're trying to get their pool. And I mean, legit black water. They cannot fix it. They've dumped all the chlorine in that they can think of as reasonable. Tested it. All things good. pH is good. And so we noticed that there was an oily substance on the top of the water, and said, "You know what? We need to start using an enzyme on here. Let's see if we can get this cleaned up with an enzyme." Pool starts clearing up, and we start hearing from some of the parks guys about the fence getting fixed from being run over. And we said, "Does anybody know what happened to the car?" And come to find out, as the pool starts clearing up, we start seeing the outline of a vehicle in the water. That vehicle had been
so the pool was so dirty you couldn't even see the fact that there was a vehicle in there.
Driven into the pool
and left there,
abandoned, walked away.
Wow.
Again, just that disconnect that happens when an aquatic facility is not thought about.
So there was enough thought to go and fix the fence, but not to check to see what possibly caused the fence, and maybe some tire marks going towards the pool or something like that.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, I think that's a great example of even big things can be overlooked.
That's right.
There's so many small things, changing your probes on a chemical controller.
If necessary.
Right. Changing tubing on a Stenner pump or something like that. That is something that's vital to the pool. You're usually, if you're not feeding chemicals, going to test all those things in the wintertime. But just if you've got water in the pool, I mean, if you've got a plaster finish and you're letting that thing go every single year and there's staining and you're constantly fighting that staining, it doesn't matter what you do when you go to open the park, that staining is pretty much permanent unless you drain the pool and clean it.
Right. And the harshness of the chemicals that are required in order to get things cleaned back up when they've been neglected in that way.
Right.
You're degrading all finishes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's got to be a way, or there should be a way, to create a system. But as we're learning here, as we're trying to build systems internally, we can see how in municipalities or school districts or just so many areas where there's a lot of different levels of people, but possibly even people that don't work there year round, that only come in seasonally. And so is all the data getting to them?
Right.
Did a car drive into the pool? Well, we didn't know, but we knew the fence got fixed, but that wasn't even, talked about in that case. And so, I don't think we're here today to fix all communication problems.
We can't create systems for people. We can certainly recommend it.
Right. And I think that's, one thing that we're definitely trying to do here at Sunbelt is create a way that not only we have oversight on the projects, or better oversight afterwards on the projects that we're building and that we're turning over to owners, but trying to come up with a way to make sure that they have all the tools necessary to keep their pool looking great from the day that it's installed to years later.
So, I think a lot of what we're talking about, can be broken down into just general topics. So, let's talk initially on just the original design and some of the things that, we talked about. Pools having to stay full.
Yeah.
Pools that have a plastered finish do have to stay full throughout the year. The product itself can't be dried out. It's got to be hydrated consistently.
Right.
The alternative to that is paint, which you see in a lot of water parks and things like that. And the problem with paint being you get water off of that and you drain whereas a pump being off is the worst thing for the pump. A pool being drained is the worst thing for the structure.
Right.
Because all of a sudden you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds of water that's on sitting on the earth, regardless of what kind of moisture conditioning or things happened.
Yeah.
So when the pool is drained, it has higher potential to move around, obviously, or higher potential for just what looked to be a minimal defect in the paint to start peeling back and chip. So, I guess what we're getting at is, the reality is that there's positives and negatives to the different kinds of design. However, one of the things I think that a lot of people do overlook is that initial recognition of having a contract, or not a contractor, but a designer that's familiar with the area and familiar with the requirements, right?
Right.
So you look at a project that we're working on right now that was built within the last decade. Designer came in from up north.
Yeah.
And of course, their structural engineers know everything, as they all do.
Right.
And and we questioned early on the structure and said, why is part of the structure sitting on piers and part of it's
not, and why
sitting on spread footers, and part of it's just it's inconsistent soil,
right?
Which threw a red flag for us, because we have, in a lot of the times that we've learned why something's done the way that it is, because of the consistency of the soils.
Right.
You take building on rock and sand, and if you have a facility that has partial rock and partial sand, it doesn't matter that part of it's on rock.
Right. You got to have similar materials.
That's right.
Dissimilar materials are going to throw things off, or have the potential to.
And so in this case, it's a huge square footage. Half the pool sitting on piers
and void forms.
Yeah. Half the pool sitting on spread footers. And
I think a waffle slab or something. So there were definitely checks and balances on their structural calculations, but in reality, as we've seen, they have moved separately.
That's right. In an area that is known for having, we built facilities up in that area very close, where it's all sitting on piers, or all over excavated 30 feet into the ground, and
right.
So it's just so it was a surprise to us. Well, this facility is now being fixed, because lo and behold, the part that's on spread footers is moving differently than the part that's not on spread footers.
Yeah.
And so they've got a pool that's now filled up, and suddenly they're spending, they're paying for 2,500, 3,000 gallons of water
that's disappearing in between those, even though we put water stop there, they've separated enough where the water stop can't do its job.
Yeah.
And so, they hire us to come out there to do a leak detection test, thinking maybe there's a pipe leaking somewhere,
sure,
when really it's a separation of concrete, and that was based on the design. I mean, in that instance, as the estimator here at Sunbelt, I see all these details as we're doing it, and so maybe I'm throwing myself under the bus for not being able to see all those things. But I mean, when you're bidding 10, 15 projects, a month, it can be difficult to RFI every single thing. And then we get into the submittal process when we get the project. And even at that point, we are trusting that the design that we've bid off of and that we've been given a contract on is ready to go and build. And it's no slight to the engineers or to the architects or just the planning in general. It's just that they might have done something in another place for your example where this worked, no issues at all. But back to your point, there was probably on similar soils where your potential for movement was basically none. Yeah. Whereas here in Texas, as we know, you're 5 inches or above, pretty much everywhere, especially in that area.
Well, and you think about it too, and we don't have an engineering degree.
Right.
And whereas a lot of us have business degrees, the truth is that we're going and we're talking to individuals that have been educated in this. And so for us to come to them and say, hey, Mr. Engineer,
right.
I don't think this is right.
Because that always goes over
and the response that we're going to get is, hey, pool guy, you see that picture? You build it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, hey, we trust, and we want to trust the process.
And truthfully, most of the time they're right.
Right.
Most of the time when we come to an engineer with a question, they've got a very valid reason as to why things were done the way that they were.
I would prefer to make a daily decision on means and methods and true constructability, not questioning whether this is going to work, not only right now as I'm building it or we're building it, but 10 to 50 years from now as these structures are meant to last, right? Usually over-engineered so that they last, half a century.
That's right. Well, and I think too, the point of this is that owners and investors and have a responsibility to choose the guys that are known and have a good track record in the area that they're working.
Right.
There is I get laughed at quite a bit with pool guys from the north, because they talk about half their business is winterizing and dewinterizing
right.
Swimming pools, and we're like, wait, y'all do what?
We have usually 1 week a year where we're worried about it. But it's still something that comes up here. And back to our earlier conversation, trying to prep for those things when you're not used to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen instances down here. I mean, we built a project a few years ago when the temperatures were 0 for 5 days in a row. And in fact, it happened so quickly that, yes, we realized it was going to get cold, but we didn't realize it was going to ice so quickly. And we couldn't even get back over to the pool to go do what we needed to do.
And do what we needed to do.
We had sent a tech over there to do some winterization, but the problem was you have 12-inch pipe that's 8 feet off the ground.
What's he going to do?
Yeah.
By himself.
And so
just stuff that we're not prepped for.
Right. And, that comes back to putting, processes in place and doing better ourselves.
That's right. And we certainly learned and have programs in place because of that instance now.
Right. And that's that great collaboration between, your client and your team of like, okay, did we miss the mark on this one? What could we have done?
Sure.
And learn from that so that processes are put in place later so that at least that same thing doesn't happen again.
So let's take engineers completely out of mix now.
Okay.
And talk a little bit about original construction.
Yeah.
So the best drawings and the best engineers can be on a project and design the perfect swimming pool. And then what?
Well, I guess that just depends on about 20 other different things.
Well, but specifically talking, a contractor gets hold of these drawings and
swimming pool contractor.
Yeah, swimming pool contractor specifically.
Yeah,
gets hold of these drawings, and you know what? In truth, it doesn't have to be a swim. It can be a general contractor that believes that they have the ability to do to build an aquatic vessel.
I think anybody listening to this, and definitely you and I know that whereas parts of the construction of a swimming pool and parts of the mechanical system and parts of the turnkey process of a commercial swimming pool is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You can lay some rebar. You can form some concrete. You can plaster. You
plumb
can tile. Like you can do the full. You can probably find people to do the full scope.
Sure.
The problem is that we're essentially a project inside the project.
That's it.
Whereas the general contractor for a building is hiring framers and sheetrock guys and painting guys. They're specialty subcontractors in a few things, and they're really good at it. The problem with the swimming pool industry is that you're not just a contractor. You are a specialty of the specialty subcontractors in so many different areas. And not only do you need to have people that know how to oversee that work, having the right people that know that you've performed quality control the right way, and that the things that you're actually doing aren't just spinning your wheels. Like it can a lot of times look like you're building a swimming pool, and that it's going to be okay. But the truth is, back to the design, if you haven't followed that design and you've tried to, I guess, value engineer different ways to do things that don't fit this exact type of construction, you're causing not only problems for yourself to even get this thing started up, but you're definitely not giving the owner what they spend probably millions of dollars on with a lot of design and design meetings. And now they're getting something that's inferior to what they thought they were getting. And maybe they didn't even have that much to do with the selection of the swimming pool contractor. And so that's why I asked, it could be 20 different things because, is it a public bid? Is it a private bid? Is it design build? There's so many different aspects that lend to the wrong contractor getting selected.
In the last year, Phil, how much time have you spent getting Sunbelt Pools licensed in Texas? So as a pool contractor in Texas, how much time have you spent getting our license up to date?
Well, Robert, that's seems like a trick question because in the state of Texas, there is no swimming pool subcontractor license, whereas there are ways to become a general contractor, an electrician, MEP, anything like that. Yes, you need a license because you got to be able to pull permits, and swimming pool contractors have to pull permits as well. But who's validating on those permits? Electricians, plumbers, mechanical guys, and there are third-party inspections for quality control on rebar, on concrete, pressure testing, piping, but that's really oversight that's being done internally by the swimming pool contractor, and maybe the owner's got some third-party testing in there. But there's no way that I could go start my own company today and pass a certification and say, "See, here's the paper. I'm legit."
There's nothing. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
And it's something that and it's, don't get me wrong, it's not just Texas. There's several states that don't require a swimming pool license in order to build a commercial, or for that matter, a residential pool.
Right.
So it just there is a significant amount of trust that you're putting in a guy that may or may not have the qualifications in order to do it.
And it's going to need to be a whole nother episode to talk about the vetting process. I mean, obviously, we work for Sunbelt Pools.
That's right.
We represent Sunbelt Pools. So we'd like to say that we'd be the person that somebody should hire to build their commercial aquatic facility. But to kind of point it back on ourselves, how would you even know that?
Yeah.
How can you even begin? Is it my pretty website? Is it my marketing? Is it the fact that somebody has said a few nice things about us, or possibly some not so nice things about us? Like there's so many different ways where you can still second guess yourself in the decision.
Yeah. And I do think that a lot of that has to come back to a proven track record. And we're not the only guys in the area that have a good proven track record.
Which is actually great. I mean,
no, that's right.
It's
having
great.
Competent competition helps the industry in every way.
100%.
On that note, there's more than a few times that we've been called in on disaster projects after the fact.
Right.
One comes to mind for a popular health club.
Mm-hmm.
It was shortly after COVID.
Yeah.
And they were getting construction and had fired the guys that had been there before. And we just get asked, hey, part of what we need you to do is pressure test all the piping. We just want to make sure it's been off. We just want to make sure nothing has happened. It's all been tested. So we think we're good. Decks poured 28 leaks later, and legitimately working over 3 months to find all these leaks that were buried under, in some cases buried under pools, most certainly buried under decks.
Yeah.
And 28 leaks later, we saw and have documentation of some of them just most horrendous plumbing that I've ever seen. And with that, this is after and in this particular municipality, they have relatively stringent plumbing inspections.
Right. And
they've had owners representatives on site.
Right.
And after the fact, with that, it was just pipe's not even being glued together.
Yeah.
Yet the claim is that it's ready for work.
Yeah. Ready to cover with concrete.
Ready to cover in concrete.
Yeah.
And in fact, I did cover it in concrete.
Right.
It just, so there's just so much that has to go into making the project right. So, a lot of, back to our original conversation of, why is it that some of these new facilities seem to very quickly get into a scenario where they've got maintenance that they're having to do early, or it does not seem new.
Right.
And just shortly over time, a pipe can hold for a little while, and it may seem fine, and then suddenly it's leaking like crazy when after a season.
Yeah, I mean that does bring it back to what we really wanted to talk about today was why over time our pool's difficult to maintain, because there are so many different scenarios, so many different possible things that could go wrong that kind of build on top of each other. I mean, it's
Right.
one thing to have leaky pipe, to not know that you have a leaking pipe. Where is the leaking pipe? But I mean, that you could go years without that because you've got things like autofills, and if no one's paying attention
Yeah.
that the autofill's on all the time, then you would never know.
And by
that you
by
have a
the
leak.
time you do realize it, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
I think another huge aspect of it is the products that are used initially. For example, there was a time that we used a different pump manufacturer that didn't have. It was rated as a swimming pool pump. It was, and it started out operating phenomenally.
Yeah.
Didn't have any epoxy coating on the inside, and boy, you could almost set a clock by that.
Yeah.
That 5 years, and that pump was going to be just completely useless.
Yeah.
Impellers not spinning enough, not pulling enough water, pushing enough water.
Because the impellers just deteriorated.
Yeah, the impellers deteriorated. The volute has deteriorated. So initial products used. Similar thing with filters.
Yeah.
Whereas, a sand filter or, over time is going to have some degradation to it.
Right.
And, if the filter media is not changed out, if the product that was initially used, the stuff that you can buy from distribution is just trash.
Right.
And if that stuff is the stuff that's put in at the beginning, I'm talking specifically sand media.
Yeah.
If the sand media that's put in initially is trash, it's going to degrade so quick, and then everybody's going to wonder why that pool that for the first 2 years operated phenomenally,
right,
suddenly, and on a lot of these facilities, a sand change is a capital investment. It's not just a matter of going out with a shovel and a short little process. It's a tough deal.
Yeah.
There's, and we mentioned it early on, another deal is deferred maintenance.
Right.
And I do think that there's opportunity in the market for companies to help with that deferred maintenance, identify those issues that should be resolved before they're problems. That sand being one of them, with what's really popular these days with regenerative media,
right?
Just the processes that are involved in keeping those operating at their full capacity and intent. There's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts in the mechanical realm,
right? And
moving parts have a tendency to deteriorate.
Well, and earlier in the conversation, you mentioned a pump being off for a while and then firing that thing back up. A lot of systems, mechanical systems, are made to run all the time. We know that if you're operating, and let's say an indoor natatorium that's open 365 days a year, you're running that circulation system 365 days a year.
That's right.
I'm sure there's plenty of data out there that says that pump may or may not last as long as a pump, that turns off for 6 months a year. I'm sure some people have some data on that. It'd be interesting to see. But the point is that at those indoor aquatic facilities that are running year long, they have people looking at it.
That's right.
Year long.
Year round.
They're testing water chemistry multiple times a day. They're replacing parts throughout the year instead of just waiting till one certain time of the year where that part might not be available to that specific item.
Yeah.
I think, we could dive into lead times and so many other things where it's like, okay, great, we're ready to start things back up. We go to do it, and turns out that let's just use impeller, for instance, isn't just on the shelf in the city that you're in, especially if you're in a remote area or something like that. It could take 2 to 3 months. And if you don't start up your pool till April, 2 to 3 months puts you into June, and you don't have the part that you need. Can you get a replacement motor in time? Can you find someone that actually knows how to replace it? There's like an endless scenarios that could be thought of am I doing enough to make sure I don't run into this long list of issues when I go to start up my pool?
So, I mean, I think with that, the important thing is even in off season to be thinking about it, and to have an agenda and to have every item identified and the maintenance that's required for each one of them, and to make sure that there is a planned replacement or there is a planned downtime for that maintenance to occur, so that when it is a problem, because it will be.
Right.
But when it is a problem, there's a solution already ready.
I agree. Man, this has been good. I've had fun doing this today. This was fun, man. This is really good. Well, we want to thank you for listening to The Aquatic Perspective. We appreciate you spending time with us, and we look forward to sharing more perspectives from the commercial aquatic industry in the next episode. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about why choosing a great aquatic engineer doesn't guarantee a great pool. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.